Alrighty, and welcome back to Let's Get At It with Drew Ruckham. I'm here with Jordan Winston, co-founder and CEO of Not Your Dad's Media Company, a marketing agency, but a modern one that takes a twist on the traditional ways of running paid social and going for the boom or bust of the influencer marketing street interview style. Jordan works with consumer brands and CPGs, and he's also been gracious enough to join the pod. Jordan, thanks for joining us.
What's going on? Stoked to be here.
Let's do it. All right. You run your own marketing agency. You founded this, sounds like within the past year. And it really seems like from your LinkedIn, you're starting to hit your stride a little bit. You're getting into the street interview flow, as I could potentially say. But I want to ask you a question here, something that's maybe less about the agency, but more about who you are and what you do. And I want to see how your gears turn here to start. And I got a little icebreaker. So if I were to give you 50K and I want you to turn it to $1 million, who are you doing it with? How are you doing it? And where are you doing it?
How am I doing it? Where am I doing it? Okay, so my brain goes in a couple of different ways. The first way is like, just fucking gamble it on the market, which is probably the worst answer I could possibly give you. I'd probably do what's already working. I guess the background to that is like, what's working now is doing a bunch of free shit for brands. And brands that like you wouldn't have any other way to get in touch with, like Superpower. They just raised fucking $100 million in SF. So what I would do with that 50K is hire 7, 8, 9, 10 different people to go out and make street interviews for these brands that I would have no other way to get in touch with, and then just charge out the wazoo to actually do them. Once we like make one, give them a sample, they're like, oh, I love this, I want to do 10 more. That's probably what I would do, and just hire maybe hire an influencer or two in New York to go and do them, and then just do a shit ton of outbound to those brands to get them to sign massive retainers with us.
I love your approach of being able to bet on yourself and saying like, look, I know if I just do what I need to do for this company without getting in the door and without doing the service, you're pretty much saying the proof's in the pudding. I'm going to go out there and make the videos that I would make if we were talking, there was a contract. I'm just going to send those to you. And you're not going to say, what are you doing making videos for me? You're going to say, let's try and make some kind of formal partnership. And seems like that's been the blueprint that's been successful for you thus far.
Yeah, it's probably the most boring answer ever. It's like, yeah, just do what's already working. But that's probably like, that's my actual answer is that. My fun answer would be probably just go super deep in the crypto world and just try and find like one little coin that's gonna go ballistic, and then try and bet on it. But I think 99 out of 100 times I'd probably lose my money.
Yeah, well, that one time, that 50K turns into 100 mil, not
Yeah,
just one.
exactly. But luckily, if you were to give me 50K 100 times, then maybe I would do that. But
Yeah. I think it's interesting that the founder mentality is like this. Not that you want to gamble it, but you gamble on yourself. You'll gamble on the product that you're serving up for yourself and for the media company that you run. I have the confidence that, look, I can make 11 leg parlay and tend to win 10K, and it's going to
there
hit
is some.
because
It's a delusional confidence to an extent, but I don't know. I think every founder has that to some extent. Like why else would you go out on your own and go build? You have to be a little bit narcissistic is the wrong word, but you have to be a little bit delusional to think that you can do it better than somebody else, I think.
good thing about business is that there's market share, right? It's not like a business where it's a sport where it's zero sum and there's a winner and there's a loser. Like there can be tens, hundreds of viral marketing companies just like yourself. It's just a matter of who's doing what and betting on yourself that your product's just going to succeed for who you're doing it for.
Yeah. You ever heard that thing? It's like somebody 10 times dumber than you is making 10 times more money than you, but because they're just more confident or
That's
like that
it.
self-belief. I know that to be true. Like there are people where I'm like, you are not smarter than me, but you have bozo amounts of confidence, and you just go and do it and don't even think about it.
I guess ignorance is bliss in that sense. I was looking at your LinkedIn and I actually like, speaking of how smart you are, I like the plug on your education that freshman year you got a 4.0 and we're not going to talk about the rest.
That that's kind of accurate, dude. I should have tried the last couple of years, but I found out that I liked partying more.
My aunt and my uncle talk about this with their kids who are all smart. All my cousins, we're talking like Syracuse, Tulane, Santa Clara, and
Of course.
and they said, "Don't let school get in the way of your education." Yeah. And I feel like it's very fair just because you're not there just to go to class. You're there to become yourself.
Yeah, college is weird now, where it's like it's seemingly more of a social experiment than it is like an actual educational experiment. You can learn anything you want in the world. I mean, most people don't have the agency to like go and learn how to code, but previously you needed to have a computer science degree for that. Now you can literally use GPT to teach yourself how to code. So, I mean, but then again, it is a huge social experiment. Like you really do learn who you are. You make friends. You learn how to interact with people. I still think college is great. It's definitely overhyped. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, especially I saw it was Colorado State, which means you really get to discover yourself there from a spiritual standpoint. I mean, that's a place where you are fully immersed in the nature of the world. Like I went to Michigan where
yeah.
it's cold and there's not like the understanding that you go outside and you go ski when it's winter. It's like I'm going from point A to point B, which is my classroom back to home and I'm studying. Colorado, on the other hand, is beautiful. Being able to go hike, being able to do whatever else you need in order to really find who you are. And so that brings me to my next question. And it's something that I usually ask a little later on in this pod, but I want to see if you would consider yourself spiritual. Are you religious? But mainly, what governs your soul?
What governs my soul? I have, man, I'm getting deep on you already. I have a ton of existential anxiety. I haven't found a great way to deal with that. I'm culturally and religiously and traditionally Jewish. Grandparents were in World War II. Not they're actually in the U.S. Funny enough, like liberating the concentration camps, but they came back and like honestly wanted nothing to do with Judaism. And then my parents both found out that they were that they were Jewish when they were like 10 years old, and then they leaned completely into it. My dad changed his name from John Sebastian Winston to Yohanan Sebastian Winston, and my mom was Roberta Goldman, so she kind of knew. But um, there's the Jewish component is big. It's governed a huge part of who I am. In terms of, I wouldn't say I find a ton of spirituality in it. Like it's deeply cultural and historical for me. But the spiritual component, can I say psychedelics? Is that allowed?
You may, and that's what I was
Okay.
alluding to when we're
So
talking about Colorado State. I mean, and it also is decriminalized in Ann Arbor.
Oh, beyond that though, I've gone down some rabbit holes in my day, and one of those rabbit holes has been psychedelics, the medicinal ways that like ketamine is being used in New Zealand, or how psilocybin is being used with cancer patients, for example, to help them deal with the existential anxiety of like what goes on. And then when I was 22, I actually did an ayahuasca. Did an ayahuasca trip in the middle of the jungle in Colombia, and there's nothing that has changed how I view the world and how I view humanity and life and death deeper than that. Completely a 180 degrees. It made me grow up a little bit, but it made me realize that the world's a lot bigger than we think.
It really is. And
Yeah.
people call marijuana the gateway drug, which I probably would agree with, which leads you down the rabbit holes of a psychedelic. And once you have that psychedelic of a psilocybin called a magic mushroom, then the want and the desire to do something more of like a DMT, stronger form in ayahuasca can come in just action. It looks like I'm curious on what that difference was from something as psychedelics of psilocybin to something as severe and massive. I'm assuming it's like a 3-day retreat of ayahuasca.
Pretty much, yeah. We were in the middle of the jungle for 3 days, no phone, no nothing. But the one thing I will say before that, I think weed is actually a significantly more harmful drug for society than mushrooms by a country mile. When you smoke weed, you don't do shit, and you're making yourself dumber, and you don't get off the couch. It's just a lazy thing. But um, psilocybin is one of the only drugs that we know of that actually helps with neurogenesis, which is the formation of new brain connections in your brain. Technically, makes you smarter. I'm pretty anti weed, weirdly enough, for like how I guess drug forward I am. I'm pretty anti marijuana.
Well, that gives you a stronger opinion because I mean, someone that's drug forward but has, I'll put anything in my body versus somebody that's like, I have opinions on what is good and what is bad. It makes you have a stronger case.
There's also, yeah, man, we're just talking about a fucking tangent, but the drugs in America is not just biological; it's highly political. And if you look at
Extremely.
like
Why is tobacco and why is alcohol
why is
illegal?
alcohol legal? If you look at why weed was made legal and demonized in the first place, and same with crack cocaine, which I'm not saying that's good, but why it was demonized was because during the Nixon era, it wasn't you couldn't you couldn't be anti hippie, or you couldn't make being a hippie or being anti-war illegal. But what you could do is criminalize the drugs that those communities use. For Black people, it was pretty heavily on crack, and for the hippies, it was marijuana. And what you could do is really villainize those communities, arrest their leaders, and get them on these these fucked up drug charges. That was like fully orchestrated by Nixon. And one of his actually top advisors admitted it 10, 20 years later. And he was like, oh yeah, it was fully an anti-war left and an anti-Black people movement to criminalize drugs. And now I make it seem like I'm like every drug should be legal, which is not true at all. But there's a reason. There's a reason why that.
Yes. I mean, these politicians, they can't just go out there and they can't just say, hey, we have to put all these people and we have to put them in jail. But they can gain power out of anything, being able to exploit, hey, there's clearly things that go on for the top percent that are turned a blind eye towards, for better or for worse. And then in a drug movement, you can't do that. We're going to put you away.
Caveat everything I just said by saying that uh, I drink alcohol. I don't really ever smoke weed. I take mushrooms every like maybe 6 months. I don't actually use that many that many drugs, but I
Yeah.
think it's an interesting topic that I've learned a lot about.
I am also fascinated by it. And when you have a podcast like this for myself, where, look, we're here to talk to entrepreneurs. I'm not here to talk about Not Your Dad's Media. I'm really here to learn about who you are. I'm not going to here be an endorsed ad and how it's a mobile app where users get money, but I want to learn about why you
The
are the way
plug.
you are. Literally, tiny plug, miniature
Yeah.
plug right here.
Yeah.
But I find that fascinating just because I'm also interested in the psilocybin space. And when you are able to indulge in something like that, you're like, how on earth are are alcohol and marijuana and tobacco legal when this is just going to sit here and it's a political discussion, it's an opinion discussion, but
I will
uh,
say, I think that after doing an ayahuasca retreat, which was actually random. We were doing a thing in the Amazon, just like a 7-day tour. And then one of the guys was like, hey, my friend, you want to do ayahuasca? And I'm like, fuck it. Yeah, sure. Why not? Which was really dumb. I should have like actually planned it. And I probably wouldn't, I think I did it too soon, but I would have like planned it out a little bit better. But one of the things it taught me is like, most people should not do psychedelics. Like they're really powerful
they're
things. And
intense.
people just like go to concerts and take mushrooms and then they freak out and they wonder why. And it's like, yeah, because it's one of the most potent things you can put in your body.
It really reveals the truth of a lot of things. But as much as I want to talk about psychedelics for the next hour and
I
a
can keep
half,
going, man. I love it.
I could too. And maybe there,
Yeah,
next episode we can talk about that.
no, let's
I
hear
want
it.
to I want to ask you a question that I'm asking everybody, and the name of the podcast alludes to it, and that's, what do you do on the daily to get at it? I want to hear what is something that separates you from the rest with what you do every single day.
So the first thing that I do when I wake up is I make a list of the three, just the three most important things that I'm going to do in that day. One of those, and I mean actually technically four, because working out is always in there.
It's a
Um,
non-negotiable.
it's a non-negotiable. It's just what I do. And I'll carve out an hour in the day, no matter what, to do it. Um, but I'll make a list of three things that are like the most important things that I could do in that day, and if I do those three things, then it's a win. If I do more than those three things, awesome. But I try and do those three. So like those three might look like send 20 outbound DMs, film one new video for a client that I'm trying to win, or run 20 miles, something different. And then what happens from there is like, if I have those three or four things as a focus, then all the other little shit just kind of. Jesse Itzler had a really good thing where he was like, if you have a bucket and you have sand and you have rocks, because if you put the sand in first and then you put the rocks in, then you won't really have room for the rocks because, and so it'll basically just be like a bucket full of sand. But if you put the rocks in first and then you dump the sand in, then it kind of like weasels its way through the rocks, right? And I think like the big things are kind of like the rocks. You take care of those first, and then all the sand just ends up finding its way in your day anyway.
From a geometric standpoint, you're just making more use of the volume of that bucket, and it's value city.
For sure. It's, I mean, the whole trope is like Elon Musk has the same amount of time in the day that you do.
Yeah, right?
There's no
I don't know
reason
if
you.
his brain works the same as me.
No, definitely not. And probably luckily so, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
for real. I have a decent amount of sanity, but I think that's a great way of organizing and compartmentalizing what you need to get done. Because as a founder and as an entrepreneur, you can look at the tasks for the week, and if you don't get that done on a Monday or a Tuesday, you can feel like you're behind. But if you give yourself those tangible, reachable achievements to get done, how can you go to bed and say I did not win today? And it's just a matter of long can I stay in the game.
for sure. I've also been in a little bit of a rut where I'm trying to figure this out. Maybe you can help me. I know that getting up early is a great thing. Every badass US president has gotten up before 6 a.m. and that's just a thing. But in New York, which is where I live, the majority of like social life and work life is like going to go meet at like founder parties and going to just go out and meet people. And that's like half of my job is that. So then when I get home at 11 a.m., I'm like, I'm not going to wake up at 5. I just physically can't do that. So then I settle for like 6:30. So there's this constant balance between like getting up early, which I know is important, or sleep.
Well, I do have a strong opinion on this, and my business partner, my co-founder, I'm at his house right now. He is a guy that will go to bed earlier than me, and he'll wake up earlier than me. And at the very beginning, I was trying to keep up with that. I'm also on Central Time usually, and so he's Eastern Time, waking up an hour earlier than me, which is like 2 hours on me. So I was going to
Yeah.
bed 2 hours later and waking up 2 hours earlier, and I just burnt myself out. And especially in the winter, when the sun's going down early and the sun's getting up way later, I really just prioritize my sleep, especially as somebody that pushes my body in a physical way. I think sleep is the number one thing that I could possibly do. And I'm curious, like you clearly have this internal battle that you fight with yourself, but I don't think there's any difference if you wake up at 9:30 or 6:30, but you get the same amount of stuff done. You're on your time. You're doing your thing. And so I don't think that you need to be demonizing yourself for doing what needs to be done, and that's recovering your mind and your body.
Yeah. It's really hard to let go from being from at one point working a W-2 to not working a W-2, where when you're working a W-2, you have 9 to 5, and that's the time that you work, and that's the time that most of my clients work. But the most amount of work I have is like usually on Saturday, Sunday, and then and then like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is relatively pretty cool. Like I don't have a ton going. Like I have stuff, but it's not like I'm glued to my computer from 7 to 7.
Yeah,
You
I
know what I
would
mean?
say don't try and make a schedule that is normal, like, or that is societally agreed upon when
Yeah,
your schedule and your tasks aren't meant for that. I would just say that, like, for me, recovery is huge, and if I go to bed at 12:30 and I don't have a meeting until 11, then I'll sleep until I need to. My body knows. I'm a 24-year-old big boy. I know when my
yeah,
body feels good and when my brain feels good, and I can assure you that no matter what I'm gonna be doing at from 7 to 9 in the morning is not gonna be the difference because I'll be far more rested for the rest of the week and the rest of that day by getting those extra 2 hours.
yeah. I don't disagree. Part of the struggle is like the social aspect too, which is when you're in New York and you're 25, it's really fucking fun to be here. And I think if there are absolutely sacrifices that you have to make building a company that will affect your social life, but then the question you also have to ask is like, do you want to make all of those? And my answer is actually no. Like I genuinely think I can build the company that I want to build while also like being able to go get drunk with my friends on a Thursday. You know what I
Look,
mean?
the founders of this country, it was not constructed without a couple of beers and a couple of pints and talking about how we can declare independence from the big bad British across the
Yep.
pond. And look, I think that people are wired in different ways. And the second that you try and play the comparison game on what is perfect for your body and what's bad, now you're playing a ticky tack game. Now you're putting in the sand of the bucket when the rocks are the social life. Like, don't let being in New York lose yourself from like why you're being a founder. You're supposed to be in New York for that reason.
100%. Yeah, I mean, to an extent, you have to figure out what the rocks are, and that might be the hardest part.
Isn't that the burning question? What are the
Yeah, what are the
rocks?
rocks?
Yeah.
I think for me, I can definitively say the social aspect is huge, and I'm really social. I'll say that. I don't know about one of the most, but I'm pretty social. Um, so that's one of them, and then building is probably the other, and then like the physical hobbies is probably number three. But yeah, figuring out what's important. That's like it's kind of the name of the game, and that's going to change depending on where you are in life.
I mean, you constructed a job for yourself, a company where you get to be social and where you get to
Yeah, that's true.
be social, not just for your job, but
Important.
after the job. And I think that that's something you should lean into rather than, weaponize against yourself. I think that's completely fine. Look, you're a San Diego kid. You're in the noisiest city of the world now, and so what? You're being a little rowdy after work, and sometimes the days turn into weeks and the weeks turn into months. But it's just a matter of getting
Yeah,
through it and doing your best. Like, I don't really know how other way to look at it.
yeah, that's solid.
All right, so I got a question for you on why you make street interview content. You're always around meeting new people. You're hearing new things. And you said you worked this W-2. What was the moment where you knew that this was your thing?
So right out of college, I wanted to get into real estate. My one of my dad's friends had a brokerage in San Diego, and so then I took to the phones and started banging 300, 400 dials in the day, just like with very little guidance. It was basically just like, cool, you show up, here's your desk, pick up the phone, get going. I'm like, all right, cool. He gave me a really shitty list. There was no contacts on there. I basically had to like build my own lists, which is not fun. And I did that for a year and a half. And I signed a couple listings, didn't sell a single thing. I think pretty early I got comfortable not having an income because like I was bartending, I was teaching surf lessons, just anything. I was producing a podcast, which have no fucking idea how to do that. So I was doing a lot, and
Neither.
that was when I got comfortable not having like a real job. And then I got over it. I was dating this girl who was a pretty like high up recruiter at Pinterest. She had a really good friend at Samsara. Samsara, big SaaS company, and then got me an interview there. I got the job, climbed my way up from SDR to AE. And then once I got to AE, I was like, oh fuck, is this it? Like I feel like I'm kind of done chasing, and I'm like, then I had the realization of, oh man, if I spend the next 40 years as a SaaS sales rep, and nothing wrong with that, but me personally wouldn't have felt like I did everything I could in life if that was what I was going to do. So then I started building like this simplest company I could possibly think of, which was a cleaning company. It actually wasn't that simple at all, funny enough, but I bought a course and the course worked. It was fine. Probably a waste of money, but at least got me going in the right direction. I was doing this while I was at Samsara. So I was building the cleaning company, selling software during the day, and then got to a point where like 1 month we made like $2,000 in profit. And I was like, oh shit, baby, it's on. Let's go. And then I basically completely quiet quit my Samsara job. They found out and then fired me a little bit later, but I had a decision from there. And it was like, as soon as I made that money, like the best money you'll ever make is the first dollar that you make outside of a job. That's just so freaking invigorating. And so once I had that realization of like, oh, you can do this on your own. Like you don't actually need a job to like get a paycheck. That was the moment where I was like, okay, building is really fun, regardless of what you're building, whether it's a cleaning company, a coaching company, a SaaS, whatever. Building's a blast. And then not having to like ask people to take vacation was pretty cool. I really don't have to ask a grown man if I can go on a trip.
Yeah. Hey, can I go to the bathroom?
Yeah, like I feel like I was in school a little bit. Uh,
I mean, look, now you're asking yourself, why am I getting so much sleep? Why am I having so much fun at night? I'm like, you chose this life, dude.
I was building the cleaning company, and I kind of had the same thought of like, do I want to do this for the next 20, 30 years? The answer was no. I started ghostwriting for a couple founders. One of them one of them reached out to me and was like, "Hey, would you ever do my content?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'm down." Because the entire time I was making content on LinkedIn, which was um would not be where I am now if it wasn't for that. So that was like
Literally, I would not have found you. We would not be here if it weren't for
it
LinkedIn.
was the singular biggest needle mover was starting to post
Your
on.
LinkedIn is fire for what it's worth. Like
Thank you.
you had one today where it's like my post had 5,000 impressions or something like that. Why don't I have 5,000 likes? Like, what do you guys
Yeah.
hate me? Like just a great. That's an easy like.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Putting my thoughts on the internet was the number one thing that I could have done. He hit me up. He was like, "Hey, can you do this for me?" I was like, "Oh, well, if you want me to do it for you, then I bet 10 other people want me to do it for you." So then I started building Not Your Dad's from there, and did it with a co-founder, and then I saw a podcast where like this kid was doing street interviews, copied him. Honestly, like this was not my original idea, but um, learned that I was really good at it, and I live in the best city in the world for it, and I'm social enough to go do it, and I can hustle enough to get clients. So I was like, "Fuck it, let's do it." And then like this was the first time in my career where there was actually traction pretty immediately. So then I just went all in.
That's amazing. You have a co-founder. How important is that person to you and to the team and to Not Your Dad's?
Dude, fully. You're gonna end up spending more time with that person than your girlfriend or your wife. So who you choose is really important. I didn't have a great process for choosing, which luckily it worked out. But uh, yeah, I think that person will make or break your company to an extent, or at least your sanity.
Look, I agree. And having an aligning foundation is like the number one thing. If you have the same goals and the same day to day that of understanding like what is our version of success, it sounds like you and your co-founder are aligned on that, or else, you'd be pulling your, I guess, beard out
Yeah,
and be going
not that
crazy. Yeah.
prick.
Look, I had to stop myself for a sec. I had
Yeah,
to think on
yeah,
my
yeah,
toes.
that's fine. The amount
That's
the amount of ball jokes I've received this week is so insane. It was in the double digits, I will say.
well, it's one thing to be bald, but when you're able to pull a beard and a hat off, I really don't think it's that bad.
It's not. I've always said like it's acceptable to have hair and it's acceptable to be bald, but it is not acceptable to be balding. So
Yeah, one or the other. You can't
choose
have
it.
be half in, half out.
No, if you go bald, just try and grow a beard. And if you can't do that, just put on 10 pounds of muscle and you'll be fine.
I like that mantra. How about you're doing both?
Yeah, I'm trying to, but
I have one more question for you, and it revolves around the concept of your company, even though I am very interested in who Jordan Winston is. But for somebody that makes content for other companies, you have this ability, I would assume, to almost code switch, to build the brand for them, for what they want to achieve. And you even take the approach of, I'm going to make the content for them, and then I'm going to send it to them. What is a brand to you? What's your definition of brand?
okay, this is a weird answer, but I think it's a brand is one idea pushed out to the world. So that could be one thought that the founder had back in the day. That can be one segment from a podcast where he or she was like, this is what I'm going to build. And you see that in its form of like chips that are healthier or ice cream that has protein in it. And it's just usually just one idea that's pushed out and then built upon by one person at first. And then assuming that they fully believe in it, then a team, and then hopefully the whole world adopts it. But yeah, it starts with one person, one idea.
Starts with hope,
Yeah, fully.
which brings you
Faith,
to
spirituality. I
it's
guess it all
faith.
ties back in, right?
Look, it always does, and that is the burning question. That's why I ask it, and I ask it so early, and I sense the psychedelics coming on. Not saying that I ingested any, but more so that the conversation was coming to that point. This is the final question that I ask, and it's maybe bigger than spirituality. It could be the most important question that a man has ever asked another man, and that is, who's the GOAT, Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan or LeBron. Bro, you are asking the least. I don't give a shit about basketball.
When not basketball, then I don't. If you don't care about sports, and that's one thing,
No,
but
you can say Messi or Ronaldo.
Messi or Ronaldo? How do you define greatness? Is truly the question.
Well, Messi's the greatest athlete to ever live, by far, hands down.
Athlete, not even athlete.
I think he's the best. He's the best. I'll caveat that. He is the best football player to ever live.
What's the reasoning? Why not Ronaldo?
Why not Ronaldo? You know what? I don't know if this is a great analogy, but it kind of reminds me of like the Beethoven versus Mozart, where where Mozart has like he's just born a genius and like could play could play symphony at 5 years old and wrote one of the most beautiful pieces of music to ever exist at like 6. And Beethoven was the opposite. And Beethoven was like had to grind and almost killed himself a bunch of times. And I feel like that's kind of like Messi and Ronaldo, where he is incredibly gifted. He's beautiful. He's an incredibly handsome dude,
Very,
which helps a lot.
very.
Messi is like 5'6", average looking dude from Rosario in Argentina, which is one of the most dangerous cities in the continent. And he had to grind, and he's also incredibly talented, but he doesn't come from an obvious scenario, which I guess Ronaldo didn't either. But he really just changed the entire morale of a country, especially after that World Cup. Like he did his duty.
That's why I love sports, because it has that ability. It's the edge of culture. That's what it
And
is.
by the way, yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I don't know if half of that might have been wrong in terms of Beethoven Mozart, but
well, actually, it sounded really right, and I'm going to
yeah,
stick to that.
I'll take it. But the concept is there. I'm a huge Messi fan.
I think that's fair. And that is kind of similar to the way I see Jordan versus LeBron, because the people that see LeBron's greatness, they look at him and they say, wow, like he is a specimen. He's got all these tools. He was born with it. He was the chosen one. He's playing until he's 42. He's just a specimen. No one else can really do that. And the whole point is just to play for long and to be the best. My thoughts are, you got to learn. No one's born with it, but you can earn it. And there's like people talk about Mamba mentality, but there's no Mamba mentality without Jordan mentality. And I feel like the people who are Messi are also Jordan, and also, maybe Ronaldo, correlation to LeBron.
Yeah. After watching The Last Dance, I would say Jordan almost hands down, but I don't know a lot about
I
LeBron.
love The Last Dance. I love it. And people are like, well, just wait until LeBron's doc. Well, no, I mean, I'll watch it for sure, but Jordan, it's the best narrative story in sports.
It really is. Yeah, and he's such an asshole, which I'm completely okay with. That story tickled my fancy for sure.
Good. Well, I guess you can lead in a number of ways. Jordan, no pun intended, I really appreciate you coming on. Did not expect the psychedelic tangent, but that is why we do it. This is why we get at it, and you are somebody that embodies it. I know you're going to continue to kill it with Not Your Dad's media company. We'll be seeing those videos on At It here in the next month or two. I'm really happy that we're able to get on. Thank you, Jordan.
You're the man. This was fun. I did not expect the conversation to go in these down these rabbit holes, but I guess that's why we do it. I love it.
That's why we do it.
Yeah,
That's why we play the game. All right, Jordan. Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure.
Peace.